Welcome in, everybody, to Celtics Power Hour, late on a Tuesday, a little bit later than we usually do it. Had to get everything set up, and more importantly, for Ev's sake, had to put something on. You know, Ev, it's almost perfect, isn't it? They play the Sixers tomorrow. Who would have guessed that it would have timed out this way? You know, it's almost as if we planned it this way, but we didn't. You know, the Raptors fan came in the chat. He suggested the penalty. You know, I had to order people can't see it. It is a Ben Simmons jersey officially, and so I had to pony up the dough to purchase my Ben Simmons jersey from Amazon.com. Philadelphia 76ers fans lining up at the ready to give these away, and yeah, who would have known that it would have come in the day before the Celtics play the Sixers, and Celtics Power Hour falls on that very day as well. You know,
It's just perfect timing, and I feel like you went the right route of getting it on Amazon, because I think you said multiple times like you didn't want to buy a pre-used or just a already worn Ben
right,
Simmons jersey. You
right.
never know what people in Philly, or those Sixers fans, those crazy people, what they have done to that jersey.
It feels gross. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like it's still, I don't know if somebody wore it before me or not, but it still feels gross. The weird thing is like, what I mean, why was it $30 on Amazon if not the fact that it was used? You know, like can we? I don't understand unless like 76ers Pro Shop was just overloaded and they were secretly like, we gotta get these out somehow. Just start like selling them out the back door on Amazon. Like what?
Is
I don't
is his
know.
name spelled right?
I haven't double checked. Simmons isn't too hard to spell, but I don't know. Is it? Can
Simmons. We can confirm.
it is spelled right? No,
Wow, look at that.
no deformities there. So, per the rules of the bet, I will be wearing this tonight on the Celtics show, the Celtics Power Hour, and then I also have to wear it for two pregame shows. Wouldn't tomorrow be a perfect time for me to make an appearance with this shirt? The only problem is I will actually be in attendance at another NBA game tomorrow night. So will I be able to? I don't know. Maybe I'll have to make a guest appearance in my Ben Simmons jersey while in another Eastern Conference arena. Would be a little bit wacky, but at this point, why the heck not? Um,
You're already doing it for a live stream. You might as well just wear that thing to bed. Wear it all the time.
right? Yeah. Well, you know what? My girlfriend has a couple cats. Maybe I'll just leave it out, put it in their litter box or something like that. It's after I get done with this bet. So anyway, again, for the people just tuning in, Phil's already saying, taking up that this will be a theme. People will be coming in to the stream all hour, and they will be seeing me. We were explaining this at the beginning. Ev, you realize we're gonna have to explain this every 15 minutes, right? You realize
That's why I think that's why it was the bet. Obviously, you and I can wear a Ben Simmons jersey. You have to do it, but like, who cares, right? But it's the annoyance of, hey, why? Like, if I do that for the post game, or you're gonna do it for the pregame. If anyone's gonna be like, hey, why are you wearing a Sixers jersey? You'd be like, all right, well, this is what happened, and you have to say it over and over again. So I mean,
the
hey,
other problem is it's not obvious that it's a Ben Simmons jersey. If anyone looks at this, they assume maybe it's just a Philadelphia jersey. I have to, should I like back up and just get the full like it like do I do the whole show like, all right, welcome to the Celtics Power Hour, everybody. KJ Doyle joined by F Singleton and so yes, we will be, if unfortunately Phil and everybody else, like, we're gonna have to be explaining this all show. I already see people bobbing on and popping off as soon as they see the Sixers jersey. They're like, "Whoa, whoa!" But that's the night. That's what it's gonna be. So yes, I'm wearing a Ben Simmons jersey. I lost a bet, and that's I. You know what? I have to hold on a second. Ev, I'm gonna need you to talk for a second. Give me like 40 seconds here, okay?
okay, you go do your thing. I will say this: as KJ joined our call earlier, for those of you guys that care, KJ joins the video chat here, and it was just pitch black, and we are saying, what is that, a
All
loophole
right.
in the
It
bet?
turns out I needed less than 40 seconds. All right. So here's what we're gonna do. Okay.
I
Gonna
was
come
saying how
out
you
here.
joined the caller, and it was pitch black, and you were trying to find a loophole in the bet here that you could wear a Ben Simmons
Yeah.
jersey, just no one would see it.
All right. We're gonna. Do you have any idea what I'm doing here at all?
I lost a bet. You're putting up a a sign. What is going on,
Yeah,
Phil?
yeah. Well, I think that's the only way that this makes sense, really. To explain it rather than. I mean, people will still ask, people will still be wondering, but at the very least, that'll be up there in the background so that we can kind of get away with almost explaining it. So there we go. Rip it out now. Not you can't really even see it, but I lost a bet. There it is, and if I hang this up somewhere, I don't know if this will work or not, but we'll give it our best shot. Also, the fact that it's in pink doesn't help a ton, but we'll make do with what we got. So here we go. Put that right over my shoulder here, right underneath that. How visible is that? What would you say? Oh, hold on. I got
Very
it.
visible.
Very visible? Okay. That works then. All right. Get over here. Set up before the show, maybe. Do it a little bit live. All right. There we go. I lost a bet. Kind of unclear, but it's the best we could do. All
How about
right.
this?
Well,
Ready? Look, how about the screen? How about we throw up?
he lost a bet. All right. That works too. That works too. All right. So as you can tell, I lost a bet for trade KJ to Philly. Everybody's saying trade KJ to Philly, the Ben Simmons jersey. Yeah, Ben Simmons. That's what I had to do. So yeah, that is the reason for this me donning this sweet jersey. But Ev, as far as actual practical Celtics content goes, how about the fact that they're playing the Sixers tomorrow on the schedule? I haven't seen the injury report, but I think it's safe to say Ben Simmons will not be playing in that game. I think we can all pretty much agree on that being pretty certain. I know that the Celtics, there is still the question of Jaylen Brown, who once again is listed on the injury report with return from injury management, the Celtics' favorite thing to put on the injury report, which, by the way, to me, like sneaky, shady, sneaky, underhanded from the Celtics. Like, don't list it as the right hamstring, right? Because that's what it is. But no, guys, don't say Jaylen Brown right hamstring because his right hamstring has been an issue. Potentially questionable. Nope. No, guys. That's not why. It's just return from injury management. We're not going to say what the injury is because he's not injured anymore. But we just got to manage it. Manage what? Like, just put the right hamstring. If that's what it is. But they don't want to because of the optics of it.
Yeah, and I feel like, but I mean, I guess it's getting in the weeds though. But like, also like the return from injury management, like that doesn't have the best optics either. It's like, well, guess what? That means he's not ready to return. You shouldn't be. If he's ready to return from injury, then don't manage it. You know what I mean? Like, you're either ready or not. I feel like if they were to just say like, he's still dealing with, use some verbiage like that, like dealing with, or still, shoring up that right hamstring, like fine. Then how can you argue that? But like the return from, I've seen other NBA teams do that too, and it's just kind of like I don't know, like who cares about that sort of way of saying it? Just say what it is.
Yeah, so the Celtics obviously say Jaylen Brown's questionable. We'll see if he plays. I haven't seen the Sixers injury report, but Joel Embiid recently returned, obviously had a COVID scare. And Embiid mentioned, I don't know how much of this you've seen, how much of this you read up on. We know Tatum's COVID scare didn't exactly go this far with what he said about his experience with COVID, although we know it was fairly rough for Tatum, fairly bad, and he struggled with it. Joel Embiid said that he felt like he honestly was going to die. Like, that's what Joel Embiid said. I think his exact quote was something along the lines of, he wasn't sure if he was going to make it. So that obviously has to scare you a little bit. The fact that he felt that way so much. His exact quote here was, I think he is vaccinated based on what this says. Yes, he's vaccinated, but he said, I mean, I really thought I wasn't going to make it. It was that bad. I'm thankful to be sitting here. So, I mean, that quote in and of itself, like, it's kind of jaw dropping to hear an NBA player say they felt like they were going to die.
It is. That's kind of. I didn't know that he said that prior to you telling me. That's kind of wild. I feel like you can't. With COVID, it's going to affect everyone differently, right? Especially if you have it one time or the second time, or you do have symptoms, don't have symptoms, whatever it is. But we have seen NBA players legitimately come out and be like, yeah, I might be a world class athlete. I might be in great shape, so on and so forth. But guess what? It could still kind of screw with me. And that's kind of scary for Embiid, that I guess. I mean, um, I don't know. I mean, I thought it was wild last year when we heard guys coming out. I know Evan Fournier said it, Tatum, at
Mhm.
least from the Celtic side of things, but that's pretty big for Embiid.
Yeah, absolutely. And since he came back, he's had 2 games back so far. In his first game back, he absolutely went off. So it didn't seem like he missed a beat. Almost 14 points, 14 rebounds, 2 blocks in his game against the Timberwolves. Obviously, the Sixers still lost that game. It was a tough battle with Minnesota. I think if I remember correctly, that was the Anthony Edwards block to seal the game and win it for Minnesota. I actually I don't know if I said that game went to overtime, but it didn't. Oh no, it did. Sorry, it did go to overtime. I don't know. I'm getting my wires crossed here. But yeah, that
You're a
game went
Philly fan
to
for this stream. Obviously, your
yeah
wires are crossed.
that game went to double OT, and so Towns played. It's kind of crazy that he's coming off this huge monumental thing where he felt like he was fighting for his life almost, if you can say that, and he played 45 minutes in that game. So obviously the Sixers waiting until he was at full health for him to return. So maybe not surprising, maybe surprising in the same vein, but nevertheless, you have to say that Embiid. I know I don't know exactly what he's gonna be at this game as far as his conditioning level, his skill level. Like, is he going to be 100%? Is he going to be 90%? What are we looking at? But based on, because we don't have a big circumstance or a big sample size, I should say, to go off of. But always a concern, especially against the Celtics team, because we've said this question many times. We've asked this question many times over the past few years. And this year, it's as big a question as any, but we don't really seem to talk about it. Who is going to guard Joel Embiid? Who on the Celtics do you trust the most against him in the post?
Uh, I'd like to say Robert Williams, but I feel like we've given that a go before, and Joel Embiid's kind of, I don't want to say owned him, because I do think Robert Williams has had some good play. Like, that's not the type of guy Robert Williams is built as a big man to stop.
Right.
You know what I
Robert
mean?
Williams is a rim protector. He's
A
not a
backside
post
blocker, comes
Yeah,
out of nowhere, blocks the shooting guard driving.
exactly.
That being said, the Celtics have clearly banked on, and I believe he is probable for tomorrow, right? He's supposed to be the big man they can bank on. I know we have Al Horford, who's the Embiid stopper, but KJ, Embiid's one of those guys that's kind of like no one's gonna stop him. You just have to throw the kitchen sink at him and hope you make it difficult for him. You don't want him. Excuse me. You don't want Embiid to beat you. I think that's what it is. You can give Embiid 20 and 10 because guess what? He's gonna get his 20 and 10 type of thing. But you just don't want to. You don't want to see guys. You don't want to see him beat you. Get Robert Williams in foul trouble. Get Al Horford in foul trouble. Get Enes Freedom. I see Phil saying that in the chat.
Yeah.
That is a guy. I think that he's been playing really well for the Celtics lately. And he's the type of guy that, say what you want about his defense, he's a big body. You want to go out there and make it physical for Embiid, throw Cantor at him. The guy gets 6 fouls. Who really cares? You know what I mean? Like, that could be, I don't want to start him or anything like that, but that could be your sort of way of keeping Robert Williams out of foul trouble, keeping Horford out of foul trouble. Go out there and make it physical for Embiid. I don't know. With Cantor. Can we still call him Cantor? Can we?
I don't know.
That's going to be tough for me.
I mean, would you still? I mean, I think that it's the same way when Ron Artest changed his number, right? Or changed his name, I should say. You still called him Ron Artest on occasion, but I guess if you wanted to be right, you called him Meta World Peace.
I guess, yeah.
So it's gonna be. We'll get used to an S Freedom soon. But Logan also saying, I want to point this out, saying it's funny that as soon as you do the bet, Jason Tatum goes crazy. So I do deserve credit for that. But I have to wear, as everybody knows, if you're still coming in, people filing into the stream, I lost a bet. It's up here. It's not very clear, but I did lose a bet, and I had to wear the Simmons jersey as a result. But at least I get the credit for Jason Tatum going off. All the credit goes to me. So, but Ev, you bring up right there when you're talking about Embiid, you say he's going to get his 20, and you kind of have to live with that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the way. 20 is one thing. Here's what Embiid did against the Celtics last season: 35 points and 6 rebounds. So not too bad, but on the rebounds, but the 35 points pretty bad, you know?
Mhm.
38 points and 11 rebounds in the next game. Not the next game, this isn't in order, but whatever. In the other game. And then one more game against the Celtics last season, 42 and 10.
So that's what you have to prevent, obviously, right? Like that. I know
35,
20 and 10 is low end.
35, 38, 42. He averaged over 38 points per game against you last season.
Yeah.
That is
that
you
good?
No, obviously not. You can't allow that to happen. And that's what's so scary is like when you look at the Celtics team last year compared to this year, okay? What's different? All right, they still have Robert Williams as pretty much their best defensive center, okay? So that might not work, okay? So what else do you have? Because he's not bulked up enough. You mentioned Ness Cantor, okay? What else? And Al Horford, okay? Has Al Horford done much better against Embiid in years past? Like he was supposedly the Ben Simmons, the guy you put on Ben Simmons, and it didn't. That was, I mean, well, Ben Simmons isn't playing in this game, So now do you put him on Embiid? How can he do against Embiid? Is that something that you think actually might work, that you might want to try? Like Al Horford's a good defender, but again, it's a matter of like Robert Williams is a good defender too. Al Horford's a good defender, but when you have 280 pounds posting up against you at 7 foot, 7'1", whatever you want to list Embiid at, how do you handle that? Like that, you need to be a different type of defender, and frankly, Al Horford isn't that either.
I feel like there isn't many of those guys even in the league. That's
Yeah.
why I think when I say 20 and 10, that's like low. I can admit that. Like if you keep Embiid under 30, you kind of did your job on him. It's gonna come down to Harris, Maxey, Seth Curry, like those guys that are scoring for them right now. Are they going to not score for them? Like it's a little bit different for me when I think of the Sixers. I'm like, okay, you know what? I'll give you Embiid. Okay, Embiid's gonna give you the work. Don't let him have a historical night against you. Maybe that's the question you're asking then. How do you prevent a historical night? Because you can't stop him. And if the only person that stops Embiid is himself, when he gets lazy, when he gets tired, when he doesn't want to play, when he gets mad at his teammates, like that's what stops Embiid. If he wants the ball in the post, anyone on the Celtics right now, he could take 2 dribbles, go through them, and dunk on them. Like
that's the case with most teams in the NBA. As you said, there's not a lot of guys that stop. We thought last year, and Phil brings this up, we thought when you bring in Tristan Thompson that he was going to be that guy, right? Like he's someone that a little bit stronger, down in the post can hold his own. And you thought when you bring Tristan Thompson in, like, okay, he'll be the guy that guards Embiid. And he got toasted by Embiid. Like he couldn't hang with Embiid. So now he's out the door. So, at the end of the day, this is who the Sixers are now. Like, forget the Simmons, Embiid, like, the combo of the two. No, it's everything runs through Joel Embiid. And I honestly think Joel Embiid's going to have himself a game. Maybe it's the Sixers jersey talking. I don't know. But I think Joel Embiid is going to go off tomorrow night.
He turned into a Sixers fan right before us.
It's a curse wearing this thing. He's going to go off tomorrow night. I mentioned his average against Celtics, 38.3 points per game last year. That is the most points he averaged against any team last season that he played at least 2 games against. He had 1 game against Cleveland, and he put up 42 against them. And he had 1 game against Utah, and he put up 40 against them. So, since he had 1 game against those guys, then all right, he technically did better against those teams or whatever, but it's 1 game. So, but the Celtics, he feasted on the Celtics regularly. So now the question is, how do you combat that? In 2019, 2020, they did good against Embiid. 21.3 points per game against them the season prior to last. So can you get back to that? Like, is that something that's a possibility for the Celtics? Can they find a way to return to what they were able to do that season? What was different? I mean, I worry that it's going to be the same old story it was last year. But who knows? Maybe they can figure something out. Maybe they can figure out a way to start playing the kind of defense against them that they did that season. What they did a lot that season was like double teaming him, bring Marcus Smart down, like have him just force Embiid to pass the ball. And maybe that's what you do here. I don't know. I think it's harder when we look at the Sixers, right? And this is what I'm going to explain. That in that season, you could do that with Marcus Smart because who were you leaving open? The Sixers didn't have any shooting. They had Ben Simmons, but on top of
Mhm.
that, it was Josh Richardson. Al Horford was still there. So, like, you were fine doubling off Ben Simmons, doubling off Josh Richardson. Now, what the Sixers have built since they brought Daryl Morey in, now you're doubling off Seth Curry.
Yep.
Okay? Now, like, completely different story. You can't leave that guy open. And I think that's why you saw that shift from 2019-20 to 2020-21 with how effective Embiid was against the Celtics because they had to defend him differently. So how do they adjust now?
And that's kind of thing. And also, what worries? Okay, I'll answer that first because I have another thing that kind of worries me now. But in terms of them being able to, double and come down, like that's what they're probably going to have to do because, like we already said, they don't have a single guy that, unless you want to give Embiid 100 points. Do you know what I mean? Like he will go through anyone, get him in trouble. But if they're gonna have to come down and double him, and they're just gonna hopefully have to rotate and get in guys' faces, or hope for like one of those guys that is shooting the ball well to not have a good night because it is going to leave guys open. And Embiid, honestly, I feel like I would just say that he's probably started to adapt and get better knowing when that double team's coming and finding an open shooter, knowing that he's passing to a guy that can shoot. So I don't think you have an answer for that. The best thing that you can say about that is, and yes, it's today's NBA, that's different. The best thing you can say about that is, okay, well, now they're settling for threes. I know that's like I don't even know if that's possible to do in a 2022 NBA world, but now they're shooting threes rather than just getting the easy bucket down low. But the other thing that I wanted to say is that this Celtics team, the Sixers team, the way the Celtics play defense with the switch everything offense, the Sixers are going to be able to just line up whatever matchup they want with Embiid, with anyone. Like, this is the type of team when you have a guy that is a physically overpowering player. This is the type of type of scheme that I feel like that defense might struggle against. They're going to be able to say, hey, you know what? We want Embiid on shorter this possession. We want Embiid on, whoever this possession, because everyone and their grandmother knows that the Celtics switch everything. And Embiid's always in the pick and roll. Like, they're just going to go pick and roll, get Embiid on a little guy, dump it down low, and it's going to be 2 points. That's kind of that's more worrisome to me than just, hey, who's the big man that's going to cover him? It's that teams they just know they switch everything, and you can kind of get that the rotation you want. That's going to be interesting to see.
Right. And, you mentioned Cantor there, and everybody in the chat mentioning Cantor too. You talked about how, and Phil mentions it here, that Cantor was kind of effective against him. And Cantor was, he's a bigger body to back down at the end of the day, right? But we know Cantor's not a good defender. So you got to worry about Embiid faking him out. But nevertheless, just someone to stand there and be harder to back down, like, fine, okay. Do you think that Ime Udoka will be less scared of playing Cantor than Brad Stevens was? Because I think we can both agree that there were times when Brad Stevens just was too scared of Enes Kanter's defense to play him and kept him off the floor because of it. Do you think Ime Udoka will treat him differently?
I think it's a good point to bring up because I do think so. And I think we're starting to see that because I see the chat too. Garrett saying, you mean freedom. I don't know if we're doing the wrong thing here. Are we being mean? But
I don't think so. It's a case I'm getting used to. All right, freedom. I mean freedom. We gotta put freedom on Embiid.
Until people in the chat are like, who are you talking about? That's when we know that it's been too long that we're still calling him his old name. But the one thing I'll say is there was a couple games there, and I want to say recent game. I'm kind of I forgive me for forgetting, but Cantor kind of looked rough. He came in there, looked a little bit rough, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh well, this is usually when they're gonna pull him out. And then all of a sudden, I think in his mind he decided that he wanted to change his name, and he just started to look good. He started to play really well. Who'd they play a couple nights ago? That's what's driving me nuts. They lost. Came the Spurs. The Spurs game is what I'm thinking of. He came in and he kind of looked bad right away. Like I was like, oh boy, slow, getting torched, everything like that. And then all of a sudden, he decides, I'm going to be Enes Freedom, and he starts turning it on. And guess what? He actually looked really, really good. Him and Grant Williams were making plays and keeping the Celtics in it, big parts of the comeback. And the minute you saw those two guys come out of the game, there was a sort of attitude difference, and all of a sudden they lost it. So I think that right there, in a way, proves that maybe Udoka has a little bit more, balls playing Cantor because he gave him a chance there. There's so many times last year, when we would see Cantor kind of come in and Brad Stevens go, yeah, that's not working. Pull him within a couple minutes, and the guy doesn't sniff the floor for another, 2 games or maybe more. So yeah, I do honestly think that maybe he's got a little bit more of a leash here, or maybe more of leeway when it comes to being able to get minutes, because we've kind of seen it already. Like I in one game I kind of saw that. So um, I'll say yes, and
And
I think that's a good thing because he's on your team. Try and get the most out of him.
right. Real quick, while we're on the topic of rotations, Mead is asking about Schroeder. The idea of Schroeder starting next to Smart, the different things they've tried with Schroeder. Schroeder's off the injury report, so he should be playing. But what do you make of how they've used Schroeder here recently, and what do you think his role should be on the team going forward?
So in terms of how they've used him, I don't know if it's as much of like how they've used him or how he's looked like he. I guess what I like about him, and this is again kind of back to, I don't know if they've made him do this or he's kind of taken it upon himself, is he's kind of impressed me with a when should I be the point guard and when should I get our team a bucket. And that's something that I think a lot of people were like scared about him coming in. Oh, he fumbles the bag in the offseason. He, was looking at, plenty of millions of dollars. Now he comes here for just like 6 million. Is he going to be trying to show out? To me, it's like a Schroeder that has a very good sense of the game, other than like a few sort of, I don't know if I would have taken that three if I were you in sort of crunch time moments. I think that
Yeah.
Schroeder's been really good in terms of, hey, I know when to defer, and I also know when to just go to the hoop. Like there was a game probably a couple weeks ago where him and Al Horford ran a pick and roll like 3 times in a row. The first time he went, dished it to Horford. The second time he went, faked a pass, made a layup. The third time they did the pick and roll, he acted like he was going to take a layup and he stopped short, turned around, jump shot. Like his decision making has been sort of, I guess, a bright spot for him. Something that I didn't really see him doing. Like I saw him, and again, I kind of like that. Obviously, that we got him. I think a lot of people did, but I think the hesitancy of everyone being like, "Oh, this is going to be a good fit," was the fact that is he going to try and force things? Is he going to try and prove the NBA world wrong? I think he just went back to playing basketball. So again, for I guess your bigger questions, like, oh, like what have you liked about what he's done and how they've used him? It's a little bit of a, I don't know who, chicken before the egg, who caused this, but how Schroeder has fit so far, I have been pleased with, because he's not a one-dimensional sort of, exactly what you're getting. I think he does a lot of everything, which, as the season goes on, we're going to get more and more of that because he's just going to get more comfortable here.
Right. And Schroeder, of course, misses the last game, but before that, he was really struggling. And he came in playing out of his mind, incredible. And we're all like, wow, this signing's, great. Last 2 games, 6 of 24 shooting. So, right around off the top of my head, quick math, about 27-ish percent, 26% from the field.
Six of
So not very
24?
good. Yeah, 6 of 24, something like
25%.
that. 25%, right around there. Oh yeah, you know what? I totally messed up. I tried to do it
AJ, that
fancy, but I was
jersey is
like,
going to your head. That jersey
I
is
tried
just
to,
absolutely
I tried to
ruining
be
your math
I
skills.
tried to be fancy and think, okay, 6 out of 24, multiply that by 4, we got 24 out of 96. Okay, 24 out of 96. That's got to be something. And I forgot that it's just 1 out of 4. So yeah, I'm dumb a little bit because blame the Sixers jersey. Sixers jersey will make you dumb. Take that to the bank. But yeah, 6 of 24, so 25% from the floor and 2 of 10 from deep. So what is that percent? Oh yeah, 20% from 3. That one's a lot easier. Even a Sixers fan can do that math. So 20% from 3. And his 3-point shooting hasn't been very good all season, or at least for an even longer stretch than just the last 2 games. But I still feel like his scoring is something the Celtics need. Like a lot of people have been critical of how he's played, the way he's played, other parts of his game outside of the scoring. Like I understand that, he had 0 assists in the game against the Rockets, and that game wasn't great either. But the Celtics were still able to win it, so it still wasn't too much of a problem. But the whole deal with Schroeder and people criticizing him, to me, it's like the Celtics need Schroeder because no one else, if you look across the rest of the team, no one else is going to be able to score like him. No one else is going to be able to be your third scoring option like Schroeder can. And the last few games, yes, have been disappointing, but I'll take like what he's given you as a whole and his field goal percentage as a whole. Would I like the 3-point percentage to be a little better? Yes, but given what he's able to do from inside the arc, like I'm fine with it, honestly. I think Schroeder's still a player. 100 times out of 100, I still do that contract. It's not even a question in my mind.
Yeah, I 100%. I think you're getting him now. I know that he banked on himself and it kind of failed, but you're getting a double-digit $1 million a guy a year type of thing for a discount. I do think that he, even if he's on a slide or something like that, like he's not one of your true superstars that we could talk about, right? That it's like, okay, guess what? I will allot Dennis Schroeder to have a couple bad games here and there, right? Like if you are being like, oh my God, this Celtics team stinks because Dennis Schroeder had a couple bad games, it's like, well, then if we're looking at our, 1, 2, 3, 4-ish most important player as the scapegoat as to why we're sliding, why we're having bad games, then you got another thing coming. Because to me, it's like, take the reward that Dennis Schroeder gives you, but it comes with a little bit of a risk. Like, yes, he's not the best shooter. He's going to try and shoot sometimes, and it's going to look ugly. It's not going to be great. But the reward is that, like I said, a few games ago, he's able to go 6 straight points being involved in crunch time in the fourth quarter because he's got that first step, because he can pass, he can score, he can kind of pull up and jump shot. Like, Dennis Schroeder, to me, has been nothing but a success in Boston. And I know that there's been some ugly games one of the preseason games, people were talking about how, like, oh my God, why do they get him type of thing. It's like that. If you didn't have Dennis Schroeder on this team, you're clearly a worse basketball team. It's not like he's hurting you out there. So I don't see the complaints about him. Maybe it's a, what have you done for me lately type of thing, which is like, oh, you've been bad for 2 games. I'm like, okay, well, what about when he was, one of the guys that's kind of getting it going while Tatum was struggling, or when Brown was out? Like, do people forget that?
Mm-hmm. And I just think people are critical a little bit of his efficiency, what he does for the Jays, maybe being a little bit of a ball hog. I understand that there are things about Dennis Schroeder's game not to like, right? As much as we think it was a value signing, and it was a value signing, it was a great signing.
Mhm.
But there's also a reason that a lot of people around the league didn't want him. People have been critical of his turnovers. He's averaging 2.8 turnovers per game, second highest mark of his career. Like, I understand that those things can be frustrating. I think, that there are certainly like elements to that you wish were better, but I think at the end of the day, like this is a guy, you're just going to have to live with his faults, because what he gives you is really, really good, especially for the value you're getting at. So,
right.
I'll take that 100%, 100 times out of 100. And it's time to continue to take your medicine. People yell at you and then have to get in trouble for stuff you've said in the past. Do you still call Grant womp womp? Have you been taking the beating on Grant Williams all season long? Phil saying,
I don't think it's a beating though. Like, I've literally called Grant Williams as he has been his entire career. That's so like misunderstood. Grant Williams stunk last year. So guess what? I said that he stunk. You watch any clips of me this year, I say I'm glad the way that he's playing.
Whoa, Ev, I sense a little sensitivity on this Grant Williams topic, sir.
Because it's like if you ever have listened to what I said about Grant, he stunk last year. And people that say that he didn't stink last year, it's like, go watch him last year. This year, He lost weight. He's playing well. I give it to him. But to be like, oh my God, like you were wrong about Grant Williams? I like how?
Listen, I'm not saying I'm one of these people, Ev, but I think the argument for you being wrong would be like, you said you didn't want him on the team, you didn't believe in his development, you gave up on him too early. He was only you never said you didn't want him on the team. You never said
no.
You never said get Grant Williams off my team. Those words never came out of your mouth.
Probably, I mean, maybe, but like I never said anything but didn't want him to get better.
Phil,
I've always said if Grant Williams were to work out for Celtics, that's best case scenario.
All right, in your defense, you did say maybe you've said that. So okay, I'll give that. I was gonna call Phil. I was gonna say, Phil, you need to go back, go watch all the post game shows from last year. Go find Grant Williams' worst games. Find the post game shows.
Let me ask you this: did you want last year's? Did you want that? Would you want that guy from last year on your team long term?
No, and I'm not. Again, I'm not arguing with
KJ.
You.
You're a Sixers fan, and you're arguing with me.
No, it's the chat, Eb. It's the chat. I am not. Believe me. We still have the womp womps. There's the womp womps. All right, let's see here. Grant Williams' worst game last year. You could argue. Let me see. It has to be one of these. Let me find a bunch of turnovers he had too. All right. I guess maybe we could say. Well, this was a win. Let me find a loss. Maybe a loss where he was bad. Maybe the Cleveland game. People go check out the May 12th. If there was a May 12th post game show. If there's not, maybe go look for the let's see. This would be the April 17th post game show from last year. Those were Grant's worst games. I have to assume there's some stuff in those games. I don't know. But we just heard the wampum stuff. I think, that there. I won't say anything about what you've said about Grant Williams anymore. The whole thing with Grant Williams to me is like that. He was always I think that he was always a nice guy. He was always a fun guy to have around, and he's still very young, as people have pointed out, early in his NBA career. At least he's a little older for
Isn't
a
his
player in
birthday
his third
today?
year. Yeah, it is Grant Williams' birthday
today.
What do you get him, Ev? What do you get Grant Williams for his birthday? On his birthday, no less. Grant has games with 24 minutes and 0 field goal attempts. Maybe I don't know if you see this game that I'm mentioning. He shot 2 of 8, so I don't know if you would have.
My biggest, just to go back, literally my take, and I've probably said this a million times in my life. My biggest thing with Grant Williams that people put him on a pedestal immediately because his mom works at NASA, and he told Kyrie Irving that you're wrong about that. He goes out there and he's like, I want to set hard screens. I want to be here and play for a bunch of people put him on a pedestal, and that's what drove me nuts.
Well, hey, you like that too. I know you like that Kyrie quote. Don't act like you didn't like that Kyrie quote. I know you did. I know you did.
But I didn't say that Grant Williams is a future Celtics Hall of Famer before he even had a dribble.
Okay. I will say this. Phil is right. I don't know if you would have said anything on these days because he just didn't do anything. But yes, Grant had a game against Detroit, February 12th, 24 minutes. 0 field goal attempts, 6-point loss.
I probably wouldn't say anything bad about that. That's like last year that would have been a dream for me, for him to
Minnesota 23 field goal attempt or 23 minutes, 0 for 1. These are some pretty bad ones. The 19th against Chicago. So you might have the 19th and the 17th were back to back. So maybe that was your Grant Williams sweet spot. I imagine it might have been because the 19th he was 1 for 6 against Chicago, and then against Cleveland he was 1 for 6 on March 17th. So I'll go back. I'll go watch that Chicago April 19th stream, and we'll have to see what I've said about Grant Williams that night. But look, I mean, all jokes aside, he's playing really well. Like, he's been the perfect player that you'd want next to Tatum and Brown, right? Another 6'6", 6'7" guy, can guard multiple positions, is a little bit switchable. Good energy, playing good defense, and can hit a corner 3. Like, what more could you want from him than that? It's been fantastic. It's been wonderful. And will he keep it up? I don't know. Like, I'm not terribly confident that he will, but if he does, like, I feel like it's a great piece. I mean, the unfortunate thing about it is he's playing this well. It's like, wow, Grant Williams could be a missing piece for the Celtics, and they're not winning because of it. Like, he's not helping them in the win column. But theoretically, if he's playing this way, it should help them a lot more.
I think that he's been one of those guys that it's like, hey, we needed Nesmith or Langford to become that sort of like bench guy, right? I think that Grant has kind of embodied that sort of, hey, we can trust you out there, we can play you. And I even gave him credit when I said Cantor or Freedom and him against that Spurs. Really, like, I honestly believe that those two guys were responsible for that comeback. The minute they came out, all of a sudden it was like, oh, no, we'll be back to losing. We won't score for near 4 minutes at the end of the game. In terms of Grant's offensive game, that is not going to be something like Celtics fans are crazy if they think that they want him to, shoot more or want him to take more shots. Like, that's not the ideal thing or ideal scenario for Grant. Okay. What he is good at is if he can continue to make these sort of game momentum changing plays. Like, he had 2 plays in a row against the Spurs. And again, it's a couple games ago, but where he dives on the ground, gets the ball, makes a that play where he tiptoed out of bounds and got it, established himself back in. It's like, those are the plays that it's like, okay, if we can get more of that on there, that's going to benefit everyone around them. I still am not in the boat of like, oh, look at how well he's shooting. let's get him more shots. I think people are actually out of their minds if they want Grant Williams to be taking, 8 threes a game. Like that's kind of crazy.
And I'd agree. I'm not, by no means am I advocating for Grant Williams to be their third scoring option or anything like that. I did want to ask, what was it that I think Jalen Brown, when Grant Williams couldn't hit a three in his first few games, didn't he say that they were calling him, like, just they were jokingly calling him Ben Simmons or something? So I'm
Yeah.
wearing the Grant Williams Ben Simmons jersey. For anybody, again, just joining, I did lose a bet. I am wearing a Ben Simmons jersey. If you want to know more, you can go back to the beginning of the stream and listen to it. But yes, I did lose a bet, as is up here. Just to remind everybody of that again. But as far as the Grant stuff goes, yeah, a lot of people. Yeah, Jalen Brown said in 2019, yeah, we were calling him Ben Simmons because he couldn't hit a three, but now he can, and now he's playing a lot better, and just shooting a lot better and everything like that. So, and people in the chat saying, I wonder if Grant is also motivated by Smart's comments. Do you know what this is referring to exactly, Ev? I'm not.
Probably when Smart talked about, like, when Smart, I guess, called out Tatum and Brown. I don't know about those comments, but I know over the past 2 years, there's been multiple Grant and Smart sort of altercations, arguments.
Right.
That's probably because Grant Williams is that loud leadership type figure, I guess, and so is Smart. And when those two guys aren't thinking the same thing, and Grant Williams is going and being loud, like, what was the playoff loss that they had that big argument and it came out that I think Smart was mad at Grant, something like that.
Was
and then this offseason,
offseason,
it might have been, yeah. But whatever. So I can so picture Grant Williams being like, excuse me, it's all right, guys, let's go. We'll get him next time, blah, blah. And then, like, Marcus Smart's like, Grant, like, shut up type of thing.
Yeah.
And then they had the I guess they got into a little scuffle, I guess, in practice this offseason, and Robert Williams had to, like, say, like, they're brothers, they'll figure it out. He was the one that, like, leaked it, I guess, in his media. So maybe I don't know, Francisco, if it's like his comments, because to me that was like clear, like, Tatum, Brown, we got to pass the ball more, blah blah blah. But in terms of like playing with balls and everything like that, I bet that Marcus Smart probably motivates Grant Williams like all the time, because we know of multiple instances where he's like called him out. You know what I mean? So Grant Williams doesn't strike me as the type of guy that would hear Marcus Smart and be like, no, screw you. He's the type of guy that would be like, you know what, I got to internalize it. He's right. I gotta follow the leader type of thing.
Right, 100%. And then Meat saying, Grant is undersized power forward center. He can't guard Durant, Embiid, or any center. Are we asking Grant Williams to guard Kevin Durant now? Like, what? Most people can't guard Kevin Durant. Like, what is the why? Meat, I'm not trying to like come at you or anything here, but like, what is this supposed to say? What is this supposed to tell us? Like, Grant Williams can't guard Kevin Durant. Like, whoa.
He might be saying it though. I mean, he's talking about the center. I don't know. Durant might be in there, but like, people were telling me that Grant was going to be like a Draymond Green.
Okay.
He isn't. You know what I mean? Like he's not the defender that Draymond Green is. Grant Williams to me actually isn't even really that sort of a lockdown or even a good defender. What he is
he's
what I said
improved
earlier.
again this year, but
no, he's improved. Like, I'm saying like it's getting far fetched for me to be like, oh, he's going to be like one of the best defenders in the league. Like maybe he'll be this
year. Maybe he's been above average. Maybe.
That's fair, and that's good for the Celtics.
But par, like, maybe he's more of an average. Maybe he's slightly below. Like, I understand what you're saying, like Grant. But when when you think about Grant as a defender, you think about someone that's a little bit slower and a little bit undersized and all this stuff. But maybe now that he's in shape and he's lost some weight and he's playing a little, maybe now you're looking at a player like, hey, he's a little bit more versatile, a little bit more athletic, can stay with a few more guys than he used to. Can he guard Kevin Durant? Like, no, most people can't. But can he guard? I don't know, throw a random name out there, like Trevor Ariza, Mo Harkless, like whatever. So, can he hold his own for a little while against Terrence Ross? Like, maybe, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and that's kind of where I feel like he's able to strive, like just not messing up on defense.
Yeah.
Like he used to like I know that he blocked Van Vliet, right, to like seal the game or whatever. Like people love saying that, but like he used to just, if a guy would go by him, he'd foul him, or he'd let a guy go right by him, everything like that. It's like now he doesn't do that. Now he doesn't have the eye roll. Now he doesn't have the Ole sort of defense. So I can't be mad about that. But again, in terms of like the guys that Meat named, like no one's gonna cover those guys. But I think the comment is that he was advertised as a small center. He's not that.
Right.
That's not what he is anymore. So I think that's where Meat's coming from, to be honest.
So happy birthday to Grant Williams. Ev, do you have a guess to how old he is? He's a little younger than I thought, actually.
23.
Yeah, you're correct. 23 years old today, Grant Williams. And again, I think that's more reason to be encouraged with development. I mean, look, we all knew this in college. He was, two-time SEC Player of the Year. A consensus first team All American. All this stuff. So first team All SEC. So this is a player that was really good in college and had some like good elements and like maybe now we're seeing it come to fruition a little bit. After a couple years in the NBA, finding his footing, like now maybe you're reaping the benefits of letting Grant Williams develop and giving him those minutes where you're like, why is this guy playing 25 minutes and not putting up a shot? Like, well, maybe those minutes that Brad Stevens gave him has turned him into actually now a really valuable player.
It could have, and I do also want to see it like go. Like to me, the one negative that I could still say about Grant Williams, as someone that's been negative about him in the past, I've still seen way more Grant Williams negative than I've seen positive. So get me to that point where I can literally just be like, hey, you know what? He's been he goes in there and always will do good or always be the off the stat sheet type of player and stuff, then I'm sold. But I do want him to get to that point. You know what I mean? Like before, this is getting back to the territory of like why I started to not like Grant Williams. People putting him on a pedestal. The Celtics are not that great right now, and Grant Williams is playing better, and people are now, oh my God, look at how good he is. Like let's pump the brakes, and if you just keep it even keel with Grant Williams and you judge him for what he is, I'm fine with that. But he's like the number one, let's not get ahead of ourselves type guy for me.
All right, and Francisco saying his comment about Smart's comments motivating Graham. It's supposed to be a joke, sarcasm. Can't tell sarcasm through the chat. Like you might have to, if you guys want to be sarcastic, you might have to give us a little tag, because we're never going to tell. People say crazy things all the time to Evan in the post game streams and stuff. So you could be serious. We have no idea. Phil saying Grant gives better post game comments than Tatum. We'll get to Tatum in a second. Francisco saying teams are leaving Grant open to shoot because in the past he missed everything. Now he's making them more often. So is that something you're afraid of, Ev? Are you afraid teams will adjust and suddenly Grant's play will fall off a little bit? Or do you think it's something where, well, yes, teams are playing off Grant because of that a little bit, but they're also doing it because you have Dennis Schroeder driving into the paint and you need to bring help. You have Jason Tatum. You have Jaylen Brown. So, like, yes, Grant is shooting better and teams have to be mindful of that. But at the same time, like, are you going to adjust your whole defense to account for Grant Williams?
They might adjust how they close out on him and stuff. Like I think that it's a good comment because I think I said it earlier too. Like that, it's not the shooting that has wowed me for Grant Williams. Like he could still be shooting poorly, and I would give him credit for this year because of everything else that he's done. He's been able to at least provide like minutes that I don't want to kill myself in the middle of. So yeah, it's like the shooting. I expect him to come back down to earth. Like I think that he's probably an average shooter, like he's like and I don't even know percentage wise, but like
37%.
But I just mean like compared to this guy, like a Jay Crowder. Like I never got like mad when Jay Crowder would shoot an open three. Right. It would be the point where if Jay Crowder thought he was hot and maybe he'd come down, take a one dribble three. Like if Grant Williams doesn't do that, then I don't really care. Like if Grant Williams doesn't start feeling himself, then it doesn't matter to me. I think that as of right now, he's got a level enough head on his shoulder that he'll know when to shoot and when not to shoot. Right. So if they start coming out and closing out on him, then he probably doesn't shoot as well. Probably still shoots a little bit because he's been hot to start the year. But I just don't. I feel like if he starts getting, like, who would deny that? If he's been open, it's easier to make that three. So if they start closing out on him, I just would hope that maybe he keeps taking them, but then if he starts missing them, then he realizes, okay, there's the difference. Now let's reel it back in. But again, the reason that I haven't been mad at Grant Williams this year is because of everything else that he's done. I think that he's been able to kind of, make some decent plays, get his hands in pass lanes, all that cliche stuff that he was supposed to be doing and was advertised rather than being like the small ball center. That's what I've been impressed with. Like, to me, I still would rather Grant Williams probably shoot 0 threes a game because I do think he comes back down to earth at some point. So,
right. And hey, maybe Jay Crowder's a good comparison because Jay Crowder, maybe that's what Grant Williams is going to do. Is Jay Crowder's been wildly inconsistent year to year shooting threes. In his first full year in Boston, Jay Crowder shot 33% from deep. In his second full year, he shot almost 40%. Right. In Remember the year he was traded from Memphis to Miami? In Memphis, he was shooting 29% from three. In Miami, he started to shoot 44%. He's the best shooter in the world, and it helped them get to a finals. And it never cooled off. We were talking about it. I remember when we talked about it, Jay Crowder's eventually going to miss. I don't trust Jay Crowder's going to shoot 44% from deep, and he just kept doing it. So, and then, this year, now he comes out to start this year, and he's shooting 32.7% from three, So maybe that's a little bit of what Grant Williams is going to do. He's really good this year, and then he's bad next year, and it's just who knows? It's going to vary drastically, or maybe this is just who he is now. Time will tell. But, I think that we can all be happy with the way Grant's performing now. Meat saying Grant will be targeted by big guys under the hoop, saying if he plays center. I know he said that he can't guard centers now. And I think that's part of him losing the weight. Remember, he said, I lost weight, so I play different now, and this is what I am now, and blah, blah, blah. Yes, the downside to that is now you can't play him at small ball 5 as much as you could before because he's going to get even more destroyed than he already did down there. And, he wasn't great against 5s to begin with, but now it's it could be even worse, So,
now he really has no business to me even being in that position.
Right.
Because I don't think he's that. But I worry that they still... Do the Celtics still hold on hope that that's what they drafted?
Well, but did he even have any business doing it before? In theory,
but that's the problem. That's what they thought he was going to do, and he didn't have business.
But that's exactly what I'm saying. Okay, Grant Williams, bulked up. Can he guard 5s? No. So trim down. If you can't guard 5s anyway, then trim down and play the perimeter more, So
I give him credit for that. That's so true. It's that's a guy that wants to get better.
Whether you bulk up or trim down, you're not going to be able to guard 5. So don't guard 5s. I don't think it really matters either way. Ev has never said anything negative about Grant. No, of course not. Ev has never said a single.
See? Evan, is that no? I know you're gonna say that's my.
Is this your burner account? Your Evan YouTube channel? I see that guy's name's Evan. I wouldn't be surprised if you're on your little burner there, typing these up a little bit.
Shout out to Evan.
No, we see Evan in here a lot. What do you think of MA's rotations? I don't know if we're going to be able to touch on that, Phil, because we are getting into some other stuff as we start to wrap up the show. This is what I want to talk about. Levi saying Tatum may be struggling, but eventually he will find his groove again. One problem I have with Tatum is leadership. Okay, let's focus on the first part of that. Okay? Because I have a bone to pick, honestly. And we're going to circle this back to, we'll take it back to the beginning of the show. Okay? As you may have noticed, as you may have heard by now, I lost a bet. Okay? I had to buy this Ben Simmons jersey, and I had to wear it on the stream. The whole stream, I had to wear it. And I'm not done paying up this bet. I have to wear it for another 2 streams. Okay? All right. So, the bet was, Evan, do you want to enlighten people, Evan? Well, I'll let you enlighten, because I'm going to rant a little bit here. Tell them the terms of our bet as it was.
Jason Tatum we pretty much started talking. Jason Tatum was stinking it up early in the year.
Right.
And then I guess the terms were Jason Tatum needed to shoot, was it 45% from the field and 38%, at least both those numbers, through the stretch of games that was the Hawks, Lakers, Thunder, and Rockets.
Hawks, Lakers, Thunder, and Rockets. You are correct, sir. Those are the 4 games. Those are the 4 games. Yeah, so 4-game stretch. So over 4 games. In between our 2 episodes.
And I know why you're going to be upset about this, so I'll let you say that. But throughout that stretch, Tatum went absolutely off. And
Tatum went off. Didn't have a single game under 30 points during that stretch.
So that was the bet.
That was
Tatum
the bet.
Easily,
and his percentages,
went off
his percentages from last year, right? Roughly his percentages from last year. From the field, from 3, okay? So I make this bet. I feel pretty good about it. I'm like, the odds that he hits both of those numbers, I feel like Ev is giving me even a break here. I'm feeling good that I win this bet. Just for the straight up, I feel like I got a steal with this bet a little bit. Okay. So Tatum does it. He does it. I lose the bet. All right. Fine. I lost the bet. That kind of stinks. But hey, Tatum's playing better. Silver lining. That he got his groove back. He's finally back to being Jason Tatum. Thank goodness. Well, at least I can rest on that. Since I can't do this. Since the bet ended, since we did not have any necessity I didn't have any necessity for Jason Tatum to stink anymore. You know, at this point, I'm like, Jason Tatum's figured it out. Okay, now he can play good, and I can just enjoy it. Since then, do you know what he's shooting from the field? Again, he needed to shoot 45% from the field, and over the bet, and he did. Do you know what he's shooting from the field in the last 3 games since the bet period ended?
I don't. Why don't you tell me?
27% from the field. From the field. Care to venture a guess as to what he's shooting from 3?
Oh boy, I don't know. Sub 20.
17.4%.
Wow.
Jason Tatum! What are you doing? Why did you make me do this and then start sucking again? Okay? How are you going to make me buy a Ben Simmons jersey? I had to buy a Ben Simmons jersey because you decided to figure it out for 4 games. Just happened to be the exact same 4 games that I said you would do bad in. And then you go back to sucking. Why?
He actually went back to being worse than he was before the bet.
He's worse than he was before. He's worse. 27, what was it, 27%? 17% from 3? Are you kidding? And they're 1 and 2? They're 1 and 2 in that stretch.
Yeah. Pretty bad. At least you have a Sixers jersey now. Think about it like that. You have a new NBA jersey. Or Tatum watches the podcast. He watches the show. Now he might go off because you're mad at him. He doesn't want KJ mad at him.
You know, Ev, it doesn't feel like that's the case. It feels like he's just trying to fuck.
Yeah, it sounds like the opposite.
He's just trying to mess with me. That's what it feels like. Okay?
Well, I apologize on behalf of Jason Tatum, but I can't be that mad because it's either you or me wearing the Sixers jersey, and it's you.
Trolling me. He's trolling me is what he's doing.
I hope so.
So, Jason Tatum.
Wait, whoa. Are you never going to address that you got in a Twitter beef with the guy that's jersey you're wearing? I feel like we should have started the show with that.
I've had a history with Ben Simmons. Maybe, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, there's a history with Ben Simmons. It's there. I don't know if people want to find it. They can find it. Ben Simmons, actually they can't because Ben Simmons deleted this tweet. Did you know that?
No.
He deleted
so
it.
You won.
He deleted the
Twitter
tweet.
beef with him.
He must have got a new representation, and they were like, "Hey, this beef with this guy, I don't know if this is a good look for you." Between the Kendall stuff and this Twitter beef with this random Celtics guy. Yes, it's a long story. Maybe another time. We'll have another story time where we tell the Ben Simmons story. But it's maybe when he gets traded or something. But yeah, I had a long Twitter beef with Ben Simmons. I've talked about it so many times. You can find it if you really look hard enough. But we'll save that for another Celtics Power Hour. So you know what? Subscribe to the channel and you'll hear it very soon. Come back for the Celtics Power Hours every Tuesday. Yeah. So anyway, to wrap things up, let's just talk about Jason Tatum struggling again. Okay. Are you worried, Ev? Where should we do the whole show over again from 2 weeks ago now or whatever it was? Where's the panic meter? I mean, look, the 8 points against the Raptors, not very good. Had 10 assists against the Raptors. That was pretty nice. But yeah, the shooting's back in the toilet again. What happened?
So, well, we know what happens. I think Liv was right that he's trolling you. But what I will say is that I was pretty much like not worried at all, right? A little bit worried, but not worried at all because it was still early in the year when we talked about it a few weeks ago, right? Now we're at I think I said like 20 games would be that point where I'm like, hey, like things should be clicking now. And we're there now. So to me, there's a little bit more worry than there was then because I don't want to see him go up and down, up and down, up and down. Like that's the type of a season that a guy that's trying to figure out or he's showing flashes has, right? Jason Tatum shouldn't be showing flashes anymore. He should be a flash. So it does worry me a little bit because this team's going to go as far as Tatum takes them. And if he's going to be shooting in the 20s from field goal percentage and then for 3-point percentage under 20, like this team's not going far. And that's a fact. 10 assists, great. I don't think that's why they signed him to a long-term max deal, right? For 10 assists. We always say, hey, we want Tatum to pass more. We want him to have more assists. We want him to facilitate, blah, blah, blah. That doesn't mean we want him to score in the single digits. We want him to still drop a bunch of points and do that. So yeah, my worry's a little bit heavier now, I guess, than it was then. Am I in full panic mode? Because I think that was the title that we had, right? Is it time to panic about Jason Tatum in the Celtics season? I'm not in panic mode yet because I still have seen Jason Tatum look like, even in the Spurs game, that wasn't a great game for him. He was the one scoring the ball during that comeback. So okay, you know what? He started to put it together there. You know, it's the matter of like, okay, you know what? Can he look like he's supposed to at any given time? I still believe yes. The shots eventually, I hope, will fall by the end of the year. But worry, that's definitely moving up the chart there if we're given a little barometer. Worry, yes. Panic mode, I'm not near that yet. I think Jason Tatum's going to be fine by the end of the year. But now we're in the time, I guess, to make a long story short here, we're in the time frame where losing games and everything will come back to bite you. You know, he needs to be better now because these games matter, and they're going ahead on this tough stretch.
All right. Well, yeah, it's funny that his worst shooting night of all of them, they actually won. So we'll see what happens. Sixers tomorrow night. Go. No, I can't even bring myself to say it. I can't even say it. Yes, I may be wearing this on the Sixers pregame too, if I can find a way to hop on there just for maybe a few minutes. All right. Well, guys, thank you for watching. As always, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more Jason Tatum rants. And plenty of those to go around. Have any final words for the people?
No, I just hope that we see some good basketball from the Celtics, because honestly, it's been a roller coaster, and it hasn't even been a roller coaster that's like streaks. It's just been a roller coaster that's like constantly up and down, constantly up and down. If the Celtics going to suck, then suck. Let us know that you're going to suck, so we don't get sucked in each and every game, think you're going on a streak, and then all of a sudden, you know, you get beat a few games in a row. Like, I just want to see the Celtics team define themselves, right? Like, because at least then they know what to build on, what to work on. Right now, I have no definition for this team, so hopefully that changes one way or another. Hopefully it is for the better. But that's all I got to say.
All right, let me get this up for you real quick. Okay, this is what I got in my back pocket here. Okay, maybe I can turn this jersey around yet. You know, maybe I can make it something that I can actually wear around. Beat Filet, Beat Filet. Is that gonna work a little bit? You know, instead of the just the, they have this. There's always sell those Beat Filet. You know. No. Okay. Fine. No. All right.
Success.
Thank you guys for watching. As always, we appreciate it. We'll see you back tomorrow for the pregame and postgame shows. KJ Doyle, Ev Singleton, Celtics Power Hour. Thank you all for tuning in. We'll see you for another episode of this next Tuesday, but be sure to stick around to the channel for our streams tomorrow night. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a good night.